Hello and welcome to this new edition of Global Voices of Accessible Travel. I'm your host, Laurent, the co-founder of Tapooz Travel. We are an accessible, inclusive travel company based in the San Francisco Bay Area of California. Well, we are now at the end of July 2020, and for this edition of Global Voices, we are traveling just south of India to the beautiful island of Sri Lanka. With its unique landscapes, culture, and welcoming people, the Pearl of the Indian Ocean has a well-deserved reputation as a prime tourism destination. There, we're going to chat with my colleague Punsri. Now, as opposed to the discussions we had so far with other travel professionals, this one is going to be just a little bit different. Punsri really brings a different perspective to our series, Global Voices. He is a truly serial entrepreneur with a long resume of working at some of the most recognizable names in Silicon Valley of California, and eventually founding Cloud of Goods, a company that grew very rapidly to become a lead provider of mobility equipment to travelers across the US. Of course, the pandemic has reframed the growth of the company, but as you will hear, this has not stopped Punsri to continue looking at ways to combine his human and business interests. So, without further ado, let's meet Punsri.
Punsri, good morning or good evening, almost good night, I should say. How are you? It's so good to see you again.
It's good to see you too. I'm doing great.
Thank you. Thank you. So for people that have the misfortune of not knowing you yet, do you want to maybe say who you are, introduce yourself, and where you are physically? You're in Sri Lanka right now.
Absolutely. So where do I start? It's a long story. But I'm Punsri Abeywickrema. I'm Sri Lankan by origin, but I have lived in the US for more than half of my life. And, right after my high school, I came to the US and then decided to stay there. And I'm an American citizen as well as a Sri Lankan citizen. So I'm a dual citizen. And, by profession, I am a software architect, but I'm really an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur throughout my life. And, I've spent about 19 years in the Silicon Valley and, tried to build a couple of my own startup companies as well.
That's fascinating. You are truly one of those global citizens / serial entrepreneur / internet maven. We talk with each other. I know a little bit of your background story and PayPal and so on and so forth. It's fascinating, and you certainly have a very unique point of view of the situation today. So maybe just a kind of a general introduction of what's going on in Sri Lanka today in terms of the pandemic and how it's approached, the future.
Absolutely. So, I wasn't planning on, being in Sri Lanka during the pandemic time. I happened to visit Sri Lanka in February and then the airports closed. So I'm like 6 months later, I'm still in Sri Lanka. But I have nothing to complain. I'm healthy, I'm doing well, and I'm in good spirits. And in terms of Sri Lanka, they did a pretty commendable job in terms of containing COVID. Only 11 people died here. 11 people, right? I mean, that's pretty good stuff, right? And, the medical staff, all the way from the president to the government ministers to the medical staff to the military to every layer of the country's institutions really dedicated. They went out of their way because they were, even the head of military was saying, we are fighting a war without an unknown enemy, with an unknown enemy, right? So, I think one of the things the president did immediately when the COVID was spreading was he handed over the responsibility of contact tracing to the military and the intelligence service. We have a pretty respectable intelligence service in Sri Lanka. So he put his trust on the military and the intelligence service, and they did their job. Right? Only 11 people died, less than 2,000 people got infected. And I don't think anybody has died here for at least 2 months now. So it's a pretty commendable job all the officials have done over here. And also, I must say, It's one of the most popular travel destinations in Asia. And during COVID, there was a lot of foreign travelers who got stuck here, and we as Sri Lankans were able to take care of all of them. Some countries had to deport their foreigners, right, because they couldn't take care of even their own citizens. But Sri Lankan government and the officials not only took care of their own citizens, but they also took care of all the visitors. They gave them food, the military gave them food, accommodation. They really took care of them, sometimes even for no additional cost, the people who were stranded, right? And, it being a very friendly nation, even the regular people took stranded people into their households and hosted them. And there were stories, if you look at YouTube, there are a lot of stories, people like foreigners, westerners, crying, saying that when we got stuck here, we didn't expect all this hospitality, but Sri Lankans really took care of us. So that was like, all the Sri Lankans are really proud of that achievement.
That's such a heartwarming story. I mean, again, I wish we had more of those stories in our media here, because I think this is just point to the fact that in spite of everything that's happening and government involvement and politics, the human side is coping with a pandemic in really wonderful sometimes. It's really interesting to hear. So that's the government involvement is very commendable, and this is the population also getting involved in opening the doors. When you walk the streets in Colombo, are people wearing masks? Are they keeping social distances and the things that everybody else has adopted?
Yeah, for the most part. And the country, from March onwards, the country was pretty much in lockdown for about 2.5 to 3 months, and then they slowly started opening up. And and also I think the one thing that contributed to the low death rate was the experimentation they did with the Eastern medicine, not just the Western medicine, because there was no Western medicine for this, right? And the way some of the treatments in the traditional herbal medicine is not to attack the virus, but really to train your body to be more stronger, right? And even if you look at this new vaccine that Oxford University just came up with, it just does the exact same thing. It boosts your immune system to fight the virus, right? So that's exactly what the Sri Lankan traditional herbal medicine does. And even the Western doctors, during the COVID time, they said, nothing to lose, just to boost your immune system, take this, ginger to coriander to turmeric to, there's a lot of good, herbal medicine. And the spices over here, Sri Lanka is world renowned for spices, right?
Of course,
so
yeah.
I think, that I wish there was, more, Western kind of facilities to do research on why the low death rate here and how the lives were saved over here. Because I think the world can learn a lesson out of, what Sri Lankans did here.
Absolutely. I mean, if at the end of this interview you want to put with your perfect recipe for the immune system boosting tea, I'll be more than happy to put it on. That sounds good. That's good. Listen, so we know each other a little because of one of the ventures that you created specifically for our travelers with disabilities. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, about Cloud of Goods?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it didn't start that way. I wanted to, I always wanted to build something that helps the humanity and the living environment. That was kind of my, being an entrepreneur, I wanted to be proud of what I'm doing. And my parameters were, whatever I do, it needs to be helping humanity and the living environment, right? So I was looking for an idea in 2010 while I was still working at LinkedIn. When LinkedIn was still a smaller company. One day I came across this idea.
You were employee number 3, 4, 5, 10, very early on.
I was one of the first couple of hundred employees. It was in one building and a small company. Everybody knew each other, and it was fun, fast-growing.
Where they are today.
Right. No, it was a great company to work for. I learned a lot about entrepreneurship and resiliency and all of that at LinkedIn, and a lot of good lessons I learned there. But I was looking for my startup idea, and out of need, when I needed a wheelbarrow, I thought, why do I need to buy every single thing that we own? There should be a way for people to share their resources with each other for a small fee, because everything has a cost. So it's okay to give someone few dollars for borrowing their stuff, right? So in 2010, I launched startup company called Rental in Community, a peer-to-peer sharing network. And unfortunately, being one of the early guys in the sharing economy, when nobody knew about the sharing economy, I was one of the early victims of the sharing economy as well. Like outside of San Francisco, I couldn't really connect the marketplace, the demand and the supply, right? But then I strongly believe that the world needs this kind of a resource sharing platform. And then 2012, I kind of fell flat on the floor, out of cash, out of everything. And I decided that I'm not going to give up. I'm going to give it another try. So I worked super hard, 80-hour weeks to pay off my bills, all the debt that I had, all the credit cards, everything. A lot of people told me to file bankruptcy to get an easy exit. I don't believe in easy exit, so I worked hard to pay off everything. And then 2016, I was standing up on my feet again, saved enough money to start it all over again. And while I was doing that, between 2012 to 2016, I planned a relaunch by, one of the things I did was I created my second startup company in Sri Lanka, which is a outsourcing destination for, entrepreneurs and startups to outsource their tech work. Because I heard a lot of entrepreneur horror stories when they try to outsource outsource things to existing tech companies. They don't really understand entrepreneurial mindset, right? So I decided, okay, I'm going to build this company with the hidden agenda that I want to use my team to build my next startup, which is the same idea, the sharing economy platform for sharing resources, right? So then that company really became a profitable venture within the first year, and then it's still continuing into the 8th year. I'll talk about it in a little while. But so 2016, I launched my second try at the sharing economy platform. I had some focus groups in San Francisco with, total strangers. And one of the things I found out during this research was the travelers are struggling to get access to the things that they want at their destination. All the way from, traveling parents who need a stroller to, accessible travelers who need a wheelchair or a scooter to, accessible van, to all of those things. It's a lot of work to find these things. They're not platform like Amazon or, go to place, right?
I'll be the first one to tell you how much work it is. And again, this is something we talked to in the past when you were in San Francisco. Yeah, I mean, for a traveler with disability, it is a huge headache to make sure that you will have what you need in terms of your mobility and accessibility when you get to your destination. So your point is well taken, absolutely.
Right. So, I decided to launch with, sporting gear first, because I thought all the youngsters, they're gonna take risks, they're gonna rent and all of that. Then I launched with a sporting good rental store in San Francisco, and pretty soon people started asking for baby strollers. And then, I was still storing stuff in my tiny apartment in San Francisco. I had like strollers and all kinds of stuff, which, I got caught to the landlord and I got kicked out of that apartment as well for doing business in an apartment. But, as I delivered the baby strollers, the hotels started begging for accessibility gear like wheelchairs and mobility scooters. I'm like, really, there's such a demand? They're like, are you kidding me? This is the biggest need in the market right now for travelers. You guys got to do this because it will help a lot of people. So then 2016 June, I still remember, this was the turning moment. I want to share this story. I bought a wheelchair out of Craigslist just to test it because hotels kept begging for it, right? So then I listed it on Cloud of Goods. Cloudofgoods.com is the platform that I launched, right? So I listed it on cloudofgoods.com and immediately it got rented. And, I was the only delivery driver in the early days. So I put up the wheelchair in my car, loaded it, and drove to Hilton in downtown San Francisco. And this young gentleman, no disability, he came to the lobby to get the wheelchair. The moment he saw the wheelchair, he got tears in his eyes. He got like really emotional. right? So I'm like, dude, what's your story? Why you need the wheelchair for? Then he told me a story which will stick with me for the rest of my life, and that is why I wouldn't even give up on this idea. Uh, so he said, I have a 11-year-old daughter who has like 3 months to live because she is having terminal cancer. And I'm doing my last family trip with her. She's disabled. She cannot walk anymore. I'm carrying her. And all the previous cities, I get goosebumps when I'm telling the story. He said I had to hand carry her. And seeing this wheelchair, you guys, Cloud of Goods, this service in San Francisco, you have no idea how much relief I got. And now I can, make her, she doesn't have to suffer in my arms. She can, just go enjoy San Francisco, right? And just hearing that, I promised myself that, hotels were right. I need to do this. This is my calling in life. That, this is my aha moment. I need to solve this problem for this kind of people, because anybody should be able to go out and enjoy life anywhere in the world.
Of course.
So that was my story. And then since then, the rest was history. We got caught by a storm of accessible travelers who wanted to borrow mobility scooters to wheelchairs, and within 2 years we spread from east coast to west coast to down, deep south. And we were in when we had to shut down for COVID, we were in 8 cities around the country, including New York City, and doing thousands of rentals every single week, right? And unfortunately, just like all things in life, uncertainty happened, COVID happened. We had to take a decision to protect our drivers. So we decided not to even collect the stuff that were out on rent. We decided to protect our drivers is more important. So we decided to close down temporarily.
Right,
And
right.
so Cloud of Goods still to date remains shut down. And what happened was we were running the company on our own because it's such a new concept. It was super hard to raise venture capital. We raised a little bit of angel funding, but beyond that, we couldn't really raise much funding. And so we were running the company with our own funding, and now with all the order cancellations, it's like a pyramid scheme collapsing.
Sure, sure.
We got caught by a storm, and at this point, we don't know when we can revive it, but I'm working super hard to save enough cash to be able to revive it all over again.
So let me something here, and we'll talk about the business aspect and hopefully this is what's happening today. Just we all had to push the pause button on the remote control, but hopefully we will be able to push on the play very soon. But I just going back to the story that you told. And again, for people listening to us, all our colleagues in the travel industry worldwide, we all have a story like that. Not exactly like that, but one of the reasons that we all decided to work as hard as we can in that field of accessible travel is because we share the moment like the one that you described. I'm having goosebumps myself, but I can remember that moment when I say, you know what, I know I'm doing something right. Let's go for it. And everybody I'm talking to, our colleagues in, Julie John in Australia, Crystal in Denmark, Stefano in Italy, and on and on and on, we all have that moment where we knew doing something right. And this something right in my mind is described as making the world accessible to everyone. That's the bottom line. Everything else is plumbing and logistics, but the main mission is basically there is a great world out there, and we all want to be actors. We all want to be proactive in just opening the world, making it accessible to as many people as we can. So thank you for sharing the story. Now, going back to business. So you grew exponentially. The need is still there. The pandemic has hit everybody. Right now, everybody's stuck at home, more or less. In Europe, they started to open carefully, cautiously, in a structured manner as of July 1st. I would say the majority of the countries in Europe, certainly but Central and Northern Europe, are opening up, talking to our colleagues in Switzerland, in Holland, they're starting to book again, but very cautiously. It's all that. No more mass travel, no more big groups, no more cruises, no more of that stuff, but family travel, smaller format of travel, this is starting to happen. Here in the US, as you know, we're in lockdown, basically. Our big country is one giant lockdown. Nobody wants us. No, we can't travel anywhere right now except some resorty islands in the Bahamas and maybe Serbia and Albania or something like that. So it's
maybe if Elon Musk put up the spaceship Mars or the moon, right?
Oh, that's it. That would be interesting. Yeah. Okay. Can't go to Mexico, but come to the moon. Yeah, that's a slogan right there.
You can't get over there.
No. But having said so, the pandemic is here. Eventually, it will come to pass. I mean, it might be easier, it might be longer, but eventually it will come to pass. And when it come to pass, it is, I think, a given that the need that you have described is still there. It hasn't disappeared.
Right.
The need of people with disabilities, the need for mobility equipment, accessibility equipment, it's always been there, and it was never really addressed. Let's make sure, and that's one of the reasons you were so successful. But the need will come back, right?
Absolutely.
So from where you are today, and very interesting, your point of view is fascinating because again, U.S. And the East and Sri Lanka, and obviously you're close enough to India, maybe to get some vibes about what's going on in India. Can you see some trends? Can you already kind of discern something that are going to either evolve, change, or remain the same after the pandemic leaves us in terms of accessibility and mobility?
Even though cloudofgoods.com is kind of shut down right now, the website is still up. It's not taking orders, right? And we are starting to get a lot of fan mail and messages asking, hey, when are you opening again? We need you to come back. We need you to open up again. Even last night, I saw an email saying, I am one of your past customers and I've been using your service for, over 2 years. And please let us know. We need to travel again. Can you let us know when you open? Right. So, I feel for these people, I feel for them because it's like, there was a TripAdvisor review about Cloud of Goods. The person who reviewed said Cloud of Goods is like oxygen for accessible travel. It's a must-have. It's not a nice-to-have, right? I think the trend it will be for a while. It will be a new normal for sure, right? The world as we knew it will not, come back for a while. People will be more cautious. Maybe, like you said, there won't be like mass travel for a while.
Sure.
Right? There's going to be some changes that we all will have to be responsible citizens in the world and make changes into our lifestyles, right? But we cannot give up our freedoms to go out and enjoy the environment and enjoy life forever, right? We cannot be held prisoners forever, right? So at some point we need to come up with new normal, new procedures, new processes, and make sure we as humanity move forward from this. Right. And I think we absolutely can. And one thing that COVID proved was that humanity is more resilient than we thought, because I don't think there were any huge humanitarian catastrophe anywhere in the world so far. And hopefully, it will stay that way. And I really hope that it will stay that way. And, I think humanity is more resilient than we thought. So I think, we will, overcome this. It's just, a little setback in our journey, and we will prevail and we will make it better. We will be stronger as a result of this. We will have better systems, more protection to protect our citizens, and I think it's going to make us better.
I couldn't agree more with you about and it's just not just because it's a question of businesses, whether or not our business will continue. But again, it's a question of that our population, the people that we are dedicated to serve, their need are continue to be and continue to grow. I mean, so we also the growth in the demand for the services. But go ahead.
I think entrepreneurs are going to be the force behind this new normal that we need to create in the world. So I think it's the time of the entrepreneurs around the world. 'Cause I
Ab-
know a lot of entrepreneurs
Absolutely.
a lot of entrepreneurs at this point may be discouraged because what happened, they fell flat on the floor because entrepreneurs don't have a lot of cash in the pocket, right? And I did too, it hurts. But I think as entrepreneurs, we need to get that energy and the courage and say, we will prevail, we will make things work, and we will absolutely, this is our moment, this is our time to shine.
I couldn't agree more. And actually, I mean, this is exactly the I wanted to use that as a segue to ask you, and you just hit the nail on the head right now, because I was going to tell you, well, you had 2 or 3 years of experience working with accessible children with disabilities, and obviously you have this wealth of information about patterns, behavior, who they are, how they travel, what they need, and so on and so forth. And right now, you're still fielding requests or interest from people that are at home and looking forward. Same with us, with our calling overseas. We have this vast experience of working with our population. And my question to you, or my next topic is, so how can we use, now that everybody's on post, we have this enormous amount of information, of truly a wealth of information that we can draw some lessons from. Since a lot of the people, a lot of the actors in the industry are hurting, the whole hospitality is, at least in the US, hotels, cruise lines, transportation companies, tour operators, you name it. It's probably a good time to go entities and say, look, we actually, you can listen to us because you're desperate for business, and this business is huge. Accessible travelers are bringing an enormous amount of money to the table in the tourism industry. Maybe it's time to go to those people and say, look, we want to talk to you about changing your modus operandi. We want to talk to you about making your entity, your company, whatever, more accessible, because when it is coming back, we want to make sure that you address the need of our population, not because we're nice, not because I have a nice smile, because this is a population that's going to help you financially get back on your feet. I know I'm involved in that. I mean, this is something that to do day in, day out, and these global voices is certainly part of what we're trying to do. So now, throwing back the ball in your court, are there major lessons, major points? If you had today an audience of hospitality managers, of hotel managers and owners across the board in the US, what would you say to them? Saying that, hey, I'm Punsri, I have a lot of experience with people that, you want them to come to your hotel. So let me tell you what needs to be done. What would be your message?
Absolutely. So I think, in today's economy, everybody is struggling, right? The travel came to a standstill. People need to, look at innovative ways of, maximizing their revenue streams. And, they're also entrepreneurs, right? They're running small boutique hotels to large chains to all of that. They're entrepreneurs, and they need to figure out how to survive as well, right? And accessible travelers, it's a sizable market. They bring in a lot of money onto the table, like you said. And it's time for hotels to rethink through, if they're not already, their whole end-to-end flow, not just how do you cater to the whole spectrum of travelers, not just a particular group, right? And that way they will figure out new ways of catering to the accessible travelers, maybe having even cloud of goods scooters or any other facility things that is needed by the accessible travelers in the facility itself, so it's readily available, right? You don't have to go looking for this stuff. And think about what are the needs, because one of the things that I think in Florida, one of the travelers said, it really struck me my mind as well. The world is the way it is today because when the architects designed it, they didn't think about a part of that population, right?
Of course.
All the
Yep.
structure. imagine if the world was redesigned to, include this part of the population as well, to facilitate, accessibility requirements. The world would be a different place, right? And then, everybody will have the same kind of way to enjoy the world. And I think it's the time to, rethink our systems, rethink our processes, rethink, our opportunities. It's a great time to think about new opportunities. And I think, there are a lot of innovation that can happen, especially in the accessible travel industry, all the way from maybe, one of the feedback I got from a lot of travelers about my wheelchairs that I was renting. They're like, this is a hospital wheelchair. We are travelers. We don't want a hospital wheelchair. Can you guys innovate a new wheelchair, right? I think this is absolutely the opportunity that we were all waiting to reinvent, re-innovate our environment to make a better world for everyone. Right? So
Absolutely. Yeah.
The message to everyone, including the hospitality industry, is, open up your eyes. There are a lot of opportunities around there, especially in the accessibility travel industry. And, together we all should, join hands and innovate in this industry to facilitate accessibility travel.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, of course. And I have our that we have with, again, hotel manager, hospitality, tour operator, and so forth. Once we go past the wording of what you just said, making the world accessible and so forth, at the end, the real pitch, the way you grab the attention of those people is, and by the way, this is a dollar value of what we are going to bring to you, and this is where they get it. That if they didn't get it so far, now they're getting it, because everybody's hurting. They're hurting so much. So when we come and say, you want my business, I can bring you this segment of the travelers. They're eager to travel. They always were great travelers. Now they're even more eager to travel. But this is what you need to do for us if you want my business. So that's the American way. Right. But that's the power of the purse, if you will.
Right.
We coming up to the half hour. I mean, I could talk to you now for like the whole day. I mean, it's still early morning in California, but it's, you want to be your family, I'm sure. So I would love to be able to reconnect with you, maybe in a couple of weeks or more, and just to renew the conversation, see how things have evolved. Things are changing on a daily basis. But before we say goodbye, any last words from Punsri in Sri Lanka to the rest of the world about accessible travel, about the world in general?
Last words from Punsri in Sri Lanka to the rest of the world. Wow. All right. I feel important now.
Yes, you are.
So the last words is really, we are going through some tough times, probably the toughest times in our lifetimes, right? But, with great challenges come great opportunities as well. So don't look at it, don't get discouraged. I know a lot of entrepreneurs, especially, and a lot of business owners who are struggling, right? I think another way to look at it is, opportunity for us to create, whatever we want. It's a fresh start to the world. We are creating a new world right now, right? So let's, join hands with each other, innovate like, heck out of the world, and create a better world for our future generations. That is my message.
That is a great message. Absolutely. And count me in. We're going to be together in this venture going forward. Punsri, as always, it's a pleasure seeing you. Thank you so much. I'm going to say goodbye, but we're going to reconnect very, very soon. So thank you again.
Yeah. Have a good day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.